The Galactic Council Chamber was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. It floated in the empty space between star systems, a massive ring of metal and glass that could hold representatives from over 200 species. Today, every seat was filled. Today, humanity would learn its place in the universe. Ambassador Elena Marsh stood at the entrance and looked at the enormous room before her. Thousands of alien eyes turned to watch her. Some were curious. Some were amused. Most looked at her the way a person might look at an insect that had wandered into their home. She walked forward with steady steps. Her military advisor, Admiral Kevin Grant, walked beside her. His uniform was crisp and his face showed nothing. They had prepared for this moment for weeks, but nothing could truly prepare a human for standing before the rulers of the galaxy. The Dominion Collective had controlled galactic civilization for over 10,000 years. 12 ancient species had formed this alliance when humanity was still learning to use fire. They had built empires, crushed rebellions, and shaped the laws that governed 1,000,000 worlds. And now they had summoned Earth's representative to answer for humanity's rapid expansion into space. Elena reached the petitioner's platform at the center of the chamber. Above her, seated on elevated thrones, the High Council looked down. The highest throne belonged to High Chancellor Vorax of the Rethani species. His body was tall and thin, covered in dark scales that shifted color as he moved. His 4 eyes focused on Elena with cold interest. "You are the voice of Earth?" Vorax asked. His words came through the universal translator as a flat, emotionless sound. "I am Ambassador Elena Marsh," she replied. "I speak for United Earth and all human colonies." "Then you will listen," Vorax said. It was not a question. Alana nodded once and waited. Ix raised one long arm and gestured to the council members around him. "The Dominion Collective has watched your species for 83 of your years. You discovered faster than light travel and immediately spread across the stars like a disease. You claimed worlds without permission. You built fleets without authorization. You acted as if the galaxy belonged to you." Elena wanted to respond, but she held her tongue. She knew this was not the time. "However," Vorax continued, "the Dominion is merciful. We do not punish ignorance. Your species is young and foolish. You did not know the laws of civilized space. So we will give you a chance to correct your mistakes." He pressed a button on his throne, and a holographic display appeared in the air before Elena. Numbers and images floated in front of her eyes. She felt Admiral Grant tense beside her as they both read what was being demanded. "This is the tribute order," Vorax announced. "All new species must contribute to the Dominion's protection of galactic peace. Earth will surrender 40% of its military fleet to Dominion control. Earth will transfer ownership of 3 colonized worlds to the Dominion Collective. Earth will provide annual shipments of refined minerals as specified in the document." Elena stared at the numbers. The demands would cripple humanity. They would lose their 3 most resource-rich colonies. They would give away almost half their ships. They would become dependent on the Dominion for their own security. "This is the price of civilization," Vorax said. "Every species in this chamber has paid it. Every species has benefited from Dominion protection in return." Elena looked around the chamber. She saw representatives from dozens of younger species. They sat in the lower sections, far from the High Council. Their eyes were downcast. Their shoulders were slumped. They looked like prisoners, not partners. "What happens if we refuse?" Elena asked. The chamber went silent. Several council members exchanged surprised looks. Admiral Grant kept his eyes forward, but Elena could feel his approval. It was the question they had agreed she must ask. Vorax's scales shifted to a darker shade. "Refuse? No species refuses? The tribute is not a request. It is the law of galactic civilization. I understand, Elena said carefully. But I'm asking, what happens if a species does not comply? Vorax leaned forward on his throne. Then that species learns what it means to stand alone. Trade routes close. Allies disappear. Resources become scarce. The galaxy is very large, Ambassador, and very cold for those without friends. Elena nodded slowly. She understood the threat perfectly. The Dominion would not attack directly. They would simply cut humanity off from everything. Isolation, starvation, slow death. I will need to consult with my government, Elena said. Earth's leaders must discuss this matter before I can give an official response. Vorax's 4 eyes narrowed. Other species have accepted immediately. They understood their position. Earth's government operates differently, Elena replied. I cannot make this decision alone. For a long moment, Vorax stared at her. Then he waved one hand dismissively. Very well. You have 7 standard days to deliver your answer. The Dominion is patient with children. Elena bowed her head slightly. Thank you, High Chancellor. She turned and walked back toward the exit. The eyes of the chamber followed her every step. She could hear whispers in 100 different languages. The translators did not pick up most of them, but she caught fragments. Words like arrogant and foolish and dead species walking. But she also caught other words. From the lower sections, where the young species sat, she heard something different. She heard the word brave. Admiral Grant waited until they were back aboard their shuttle before speaking. That went about as expected. Elena sat down heavily in her seat. They want to own us, Kevin, not protect us. Own us. I know. He began the launch sequence. What do you think Earth will decide? Elena looked out the window at the massive council station. Somewhere in there, the rulers of the galaxy were already celebrating another species brought to heel. They were so certain of humanity's submission. I think, Elena said slowly, that they have made a serious mistake. What mistake? She turned to face him. They think we are like the others. They think we will kneel because everyone else has kneeled. They have forgotten something important. What's that? Elena's eyes were hard. Humans have never been very good at kneeling. The shuttle pulled away from the station and jumped to faster than light speed. They had 7 days to decide the future of their species. 7 days to choose between slavery and defiance. The galaxy waited for humanity's answer. The United Earth Parliament building in Geneva was surrounded by security forces. No journalists were allowed within 2 kilometers. Every window was blacked out. Every communication line was encrypted. What happened inside this building today would shape human history. President Daniel Carter sat at the head of the long table. Around him were the most powerful leaders on Earth. Military commanders, colony governors, intelligence chiefs, and senior diplomats filled every chair. A holographic screen showed Ambassador Elena Marsh's face, transmitted from her ship as it raced back toward Earth. They gave us 7 days, Elena said. But they expect us to surrender immediately. Every other species has. President Carter was 62 years old. Before politics, he had been a history professor. He had spent decades studying how civilizations rose and fell. Now he was responsible for making sure human civilization did not fall. Show them the tribute demands again, he said quietly. The screen changed to display the Dominion's requirements. 40% of Earth's fleet. 3 colonized worlds. Annual mineral shipments worth trillions. The room was silent as everyone read the numbers for the 10th time. If we pay this tribute, said Governor Patricia Webb of the Mars colonies, we lose our ability to defend ourselves. We become completely dependent on them. That is exactly the point, said Dr. Nathan Cole. He was Earth's leading expert on alien politics. He had spent 30 years studying the Dominion's methods. I have analyzed what happened to every species that paid tribute over the past 1,000 years. The pattern is always the same. He stood and walked to the display screen. Images appeared showing various alien species and their histories. The Valari paid tribute 600 years ago. Today, they cannot build a ship without Dominion approval. The Korthan paid tribute 800 years ago. Today, their population is half what it was, and their colonies have been absorbed into Dominion territory. The Nexari paid tribute 1,200 years ago. He paused. Today, the Nexari no longer exist as an independent species. The room was very quiet. Tribute is not protection, Nathan continued. It is slow absorption. The Dominion does not conquer through war. They conquer through dependence. Once you start paying, you can never stop. And each year, they take a little more. General Lisa Monroe stood up. She was the commander of Earth's Joint Military Forces, a woman who had spent her entire life preparing for threats that might never come. Until now. I have something to show you, she said. Something that only 12 people in this room know about. She typed a code into her personal tablet. The display changed to show ship designs and fleet numbers. Several people gasped. For the past 40 years, Lisa said, Earth has maintained 2 fleets. The public fleet that everyone knows about, and a reserve fleet that has been hidden in asteroid bases throughout our territory. We have 3 times as many ships as the Dominion believes we have. President Carter leaned forward. Why was this kept secret? Because we always knew this day might come, Lisa replied. The founders of the Reserve Fleet program understood that someday we might face a threat that required more than diplomacy. They were right. The room erupted in voices. Some were excited by this news. Others were frightened. Having a hidden fleet meant nothing if the Dominion could simply starve them into submission. President Carter raised his hand for silence. Dr. Cole, I have a question. In 10,000 years of Dominion rule, has any species ever refused to pay tribute? Nathan nodded slowly. 3 species refused. The Dominion did not attack them directly. Instead, they cut off all trade and contact. They blockaded their space and waited. What happened to those species? 2 eventually surrendered after years of hardship. 1? Nathan hesitated. 1 died out. But there is something important to understand. None of those species were prepared for the blockade. None of them had allies. And none of them had hidden resources. And the Dominion? President Carter pressed. Did they ever actually fight? Nathan's eyes widened slightly. He understood what the president was asking. No, sir. The Dominion has not fought a real war in over 8,000 years. They rule through fear and economic control. Their military technology is advanced, but their actual combat experience is almost non-existent. The room was completely silent now. President Carter stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the city of Geneva. Millions of people going about their daily lives, unaware that their future was being decided in this room. They rule through fear, he repeated quietly. They expect us to be afraid. They expect us to kneel because everyone else has kneeled. He turned back to face the room. But what if we don't kneel? What if we show them and the entire galaxy that humanity cannot be intimidated? Sir, said a nervous voice from the back of the room, if we refuse, we risk everything. Our economy, our colonies, our people. If we accept, President Carter replied, we lose everything anyway. Just more slowly. Dr. Cole has shown us where that path leads. Our grandchildren would curse us for choosing comfortable slavery over difficult freedom. He looked around the table at each person present. I am not asking for a vote. This decision is mine to make, and I will make it. But I want to know if you understand what I'm about to do. General Monroe spoke first. I understand, sir. And my forces are ready. Governor Webb nodded. Mars stands with Earth. One by one, every person in the room voiced their support. Some were scared. Some were uncertain. But all of them understood that this moment would define humanity forever. President Carter turned to the screen where Ambassador Marsh was waiting. Elena, you will return to the Galactic Council. You will stand before the Dominion and every species in the galaxy. And you will give them our answer. What answer should I give, Mr. President? Daniel Carter smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had made peace with whatever came next. One word, he said. Just one word. I want you to look the High Chancellor in his eyes and tell him no. Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. One word. No explanation. No negotiation. Exactly. Let them wonder what it means. Let them wonder what we are planning. Let every species in that chamber see that humans do not beg. And if they threaten us, then you tell them we are ready. You tell them that Earth has faced extinction before and survived. You tell them that we would rather die free than live as slaves. He paused. And Elena? Make sure you say it loud enough for everyone to hear. Ambassador Marsh saluted through the screen. Yes, Mr. President. It will be my honor. The transmission ended. President Carter sat back down and looked at the people around him. Now we prepare for everything that comes next. Because after that one word, nothing will ever be the same. The Galactic Council chamber was even more crowded than before. Word had spread across the galaxy that humanity would deliver its response today. Representatives from species that rarely attended council sessions had made the journey just to witness this moment. Everyone wanted to see the young species kneel dot in the merchant sections of the station. Betting was heavy. The odds were 50-1 that the humanity would accept the tribute demands. Some gamblers were betting on whether the human ambassador would cry. Others were betting on how many times she would apologize. No one was betting on refusal. That would be insane. Ambassador Elena Marsh walked through the great doors and into the chamber. She wore the same simple diplomatic uniform as before. Her face was calm. Her steps were steady. Admiral Kevin Grant walked beside her, his expression unreadable. The crowd fell silent as she approached the petitioner's platform. Thousands of eyes watched her. Some aliens were already smiling, eager to see another young species humbled. The Dominion Council members sat on their high thrones, looking down with ancient arrogance. High Chancellor Vorax leaned forward. His scales had shifted to a deep purple color that indicated satisfaction. He had done this 1,000 times. Every species broke eventually. Humans would be no different. Ambassador Marsh, Vorax said, his voice echoing through the chamber. You have had 7 days to consider the Dominion's generous offer of protection. Earth's leaders have surely recognized the wisdom of joining our family of civilizations. Elena stood at the center of the platform. She could feel her heart beating fast, but her voice remained steady. We have considered your offer carefully, High Chancellor. Then speak your answer. The galaxy waits to welcome humanity into the fold. Elena took a slow breath. She thought about President Carter's instructions. One word, no explanation, no weakness. She thought about the millions of humans watching this broadcast across their colonies. She thought about the future. She activated the universal translator to ensure every species in the chamber would understand perfectly. Then she spoke. No. The word hung in the air. For a moment, nothing happened. The chamber was frozen in silence. Then confusion spread across thousands of alien faces. Surely they had misheard. Surely the translator had made an error. Vorax's scales flickered rapidly through several colors. I do not understand. Repeat your answer. Elena's voice was clear and strong. No, Earth refuses. We will not pay tribute. We will not surrender our ships. We will not abandon our colonies. Our answer is no. The chamber exploded into chaos. Aliens jumped from their seats. Voices shouted in 100 languages. Some cried out in disbelief. Others screamed in anger. The sound was like a storm. Vorix raised his hand, and slowly the noise died down. His 4 eyes had turned black with fury. You dare to refuse the Dominion? Do you understand what you are saying? I understand perfectly, Elena replied. We are saying no. This is not possible, said Counselor Nethric of the Hollow Empire. He was one of the eldest members of the council, a creature of living crystal who had served for 300 years. No species refuses. It has not happened in millennia. Then this will be something new. Elena said. Vorix stood from his throne. At his full height, he was over 3 meters tall. His shadow fell across the platform like a thread. Human, you will explain yourself. What madness has infected your leaders? Do you wish to see your species destroyed? Elena did not step back. She did not lower her eyes. We wish to remain free. We wish to decide our own future. We wish to build our own civilization without masters. There is no madness in that. Freedom? Vorix laughed, and it was an ugly sound. What is freedom worth when you stand alone against the galaxy? When your trade routes are closed? When your colonies starve? When your children grow up in darkness? Our children will grow up free, Elena replied. That is worth any price. The chamber had grown quiet again. In the lower sections, where the young species sat, something strange was happening. Representatives were looking at each other with wide eyes. They were whispering words that the translators could barely catch. Words like courage and impossible and what if. For the first time in generations, someone had said no. For the first time, the Dominion's power had been openly challenged. The young species had lived in fear for so long that they had forgotten what defiance looked like. Now they were remembering. Vorix saw this happening. His scales turned an even darker shade. This human was dangerous not because of her weapons, but because of her example. Very well, he said coldly. If humanity chooses to stand alone, then alone you will stand. I hereby declare a full economic blockade of all human space. No Dominion member will trade with Earth. No Dominion ship will enter your territory. You will be cut off from galactic civilization completely. He expected fear. He expected her to beg for reconsideration. He expected the usual desperate negotiations. Instead, Elena simply nodded. We expected this. And we are prepared. Prepared? Vorix's voice dripped with contempt. You cannot be prepared. You are a young species with limited resources and no allies. You will suffer. Your people will cry out for relief. And eventually, you will come back to this chamber on your knees. Elena looked around at the assembled species. Her next words were not for Vorix. They were for everyone else. Earth did not want this conflict. We only wanted to live in peace, to explore the stars, to build a future for our children. But we will not purchase peace with slavery. We will not trade our freedom for comfort. She paused. And if there are others who feel the same way, know this. You are not alone. One word is all it takes to start. Vorix slammed his hand down on the arm of his throne. This session is ended. Clear the chamber. But as Elena walked toward the exit, she heard something she had not expected. From the lower sections, from the seats where the youngest and weakest species sat, someone began to clap. It was a strange sound in the alien chamber, but humans had taught the gesture to some of their few trading partners. Another joined. Then another. By the time Elena reached the doors, dozens of young species representatives were clapping. They could not speak against the Dominion openly. They could not vote against the council, but they could show this one small sign of support. Vorax watched with growing horror. He had expected to crush humanity's spirit today. Instead, he had done something far worse. He had given the galaxy a symbol of resistance. Admiral Grant waited until they were safely aboard their shuttle before speaking. That was incredible. I thought Vorax was going to have a heart attack. Elena collapsed into her seat. Her hands were shaking now that the moment had passed. Did you see them clapping? The young species? I saw. You did something today, Elena. Something bigger than just refusing tribute. She looked out the window at the council station growing smaller behind them. I hope we're ready for what comes next. We're about to find out, Grant said. The blockade starts now. The hard part is just beginning. Elena nodded. They had said no. Now they had to prove they meant it. 6 months had passed since humanity said no. 6 months of isolation. 6 months of struggle. And 6 months of something the Dominion had not expected. Survival. Captain Samuel Torres stood on the bridge of the patrol vessel, ESS Horizon. Through the viewport, he could see the edge of human space. Beyond that invisible line, Dominion ships waited like hungry wolves. They did not attack. They did not need to. They simply made sure nothing got in or out. Another probe, Captain, said Lieutenant Amy Chun from her tactical station. Coming in from Sector 7. Samuel sighed. That's the third one today. They're testing our response times. Should I launch interceptors? No, let them look. They won't find anything they don't already know. The Dominion had expected humanity to collapse within weeks. They had cut off all trade. They had turned away ships carrying food, medicine, and technology. They had made it clear to the entire galaxy that anyone who helped humanity would face the same punishment. But humans had prepared. The hidden fleet that General Monroe had revealed was now patrolling the borders. Colonies that had relied on imported food had switched to emergency farming. Factories that had used alien materials had learned to substitute with local resources. It was hard. It was painful. But humanity had not broken. Samuel had been a cargo ship captain before the blockade. Now he commanded a warship. Thousands of civilians had joined the military in the past 6 months. Everyone understood that they were fighting for their species' future. Captain, I'm picking up something strange, Amy said. Her voice had changed. She sounded confused. There's a ship approaching the border. Not from our side. From the Dominion side. Samuel walked over to her station. What kind of ship? It's Velari, a small trading vessel. They're broadcasting a peaceful signal. The Velari were one of the young species. They had paid tribute 600 years ago and had lived under Dominion control ever since. Why would one of their ships be approaching human space? Open a channel, Samuel ordered. The screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. The Velari looked somewhat like Earth's octopuses, with a soft body and many tentacles. But their eyes showed intelligence, and their translator converted their words into clear English. Human vessel, this is Trade Minister Corvith of the Velari Republic. I request permission to enter your space. I come with a proposal. Samuel exchanged a surprised look with Amy. A Dominion member species wanted to talk? This could be a trap. But it could also be something else entirely. Trade Minister, you know that crossing the border is forbidden by the Dominion. You would be placing yourself in danger. Corvith's tentacles rippled in what might have been a laugh. Captain, my people have lived in danger for 600 years. We have simply become good at hiding it. May I come aboard? Samuel made a decision. Permission granted. Follow our escort to Docking Bay 2. An hour later, Corvith stood in the Horizon's meeting room. Several armed guards watched from the corners, but the Valari seemed unconcerned. "Your species has done something remarkable," Corvith said. "You have survived 6 months of complete isolation." The Dominion did not think this was possible. They expected you to surrender within 30 days. "We're stubborn," Samuel said simply. "You are more than stubborn. You are inspiring." Corvith's eyes grew serious. "I am here because I represent a group of young species who have watched your resistance with great interest. We have lived under Dominion control for generations. We have forgotten what freedom feels like. But when your ambassador said no, something woke up inside us." Samuel leaned forward. "What exactly are you proposing?" "An alliance. Secret at first. We cannot openly defy the Dominion yet. But we can trade with you through hidden routes. We can share information about Dominion movements. We can prepare for the day when we can stand beside you openly." "How many species are we talking about?" "5, for now. But more are watching. More are waiting to see if you can truly survive this." Samuel felt his heart beat faster. This was bigger than a patrol mission. This was the beginning of something that could change the galaxy. He contacted Earth immediately. Within hours, Ambassador Elena Marsh and President Daniel Carter were speaking with Corvith through secure channels. The proposal was even bigger than Samuel had imagined. Meanwhile, on the Dominion Council station, High Chancellor Vorax was receiving disturbing reports. The human economy had not collapsed. Human morale had not broken. And strangest of all, several young species were showing signs of unusual activity. Secret meetings, encrypted communications, ships making unexpected course changes. "They should have surrendered by now," Vorax said to his advisors. "Every model predicted human collapse within 2 months. The humans are more resourceful than anticipated," said Councillor Nethric. "And there are reports of possible smuggling across the border." Vorax's scales turned red with anger. "Smuggling? Which species would dare?" "We are investigating. But High Chancellor, there is a more pressing concern. Our military commanders have reviewed the situation. They believe that if the blockade does not force human surrender soon, we may need to consider direct action. War?" Vorax had not spoken that word in centuries. "The Dominion does not fight wars. We do not need to. Perhaps not. But the humans may need to be reminded of our true power." Vorax considered this. Military action was risky. The Dominion had not fought a real battle in thousands of years. Their ships were powerful, but their crews had no combat experience. Still, if it became necessary, issue an ultimatum, Vorax decided. "Tell the humans they have 30 days to submit, or we will take their colonies by force. Let them understand the full consequences of their foolishness." The message reached Earth within hours. President Carter read it with a grim expression. Then he made a decision that would shock the galaxy. He revealed the hidden fleet. Not to the Dominion privately, but to everyone. He broadcast footage of hundreds of warships that the galaxy had not known existed. Ships that had been hidden in asteroids and moons. Ships that were armed and ready. "The Dominion has threatened to attack our homes," Carter said in his broadcast. "We do not seek war. We only ask to be left alone. But we will defend ourselves. And we invite any species who's tired of living in fear to stand with us." The broadcast ended with a simple message. "We did not seek this conflict. We only said no. Any who wish to say no with us are welcome." Within 1 week, 5 ships from young species crossed the border to join humanity's fleet. Then 10 more. Then 20. The Dominion had given humanity 30 days to surrender. Instead, humanity had started building an army. 1 year had passed since Ambassador Elena Marsh stood before the Galactic Council and said one word that changed everything. 1 year of blockades, threats, and tension. 1 year of waiting for a war that never came. The Dominion's military intervention had never happened. Their 30-day ultimatum had passed without action. Then 60 days. Then 90. The galaxy had watched and waited for the ancient powers to crush the rebellious humans. Instead, they watched the Dominion hesitate, delay, and make excuses. The truth was simple and devastating. The Dominion had forgotten how to fight. For 8,000 years, they had ruled through fear and economic control. Their military was large and well-equipped, but their commanders had never led troops in battle. Their soldiers had never faced an enemy who shot back. When confronted with an opponent who was not afraid, they discovered that fear was the only weapon they truly had, and that weapon no longer worked on humanity. Today, the Galactic Council was meeting again. But this time, everything was different. The Free Trade Alliance, organized by Earth and now including 23 species, had demanded an emergency session. High Chancellor Vorix had no choice but to agree. The alternative was admitting that the Dominion's authority had already collapsed. Ambassador Elena Marsh walked into the chamber for the third time. But she did not walk alone. Behind her came representatives from every Alliance member species. The Valari, the Korthan, the Nexari remnants, and 20 others. Species that had once sat in the lower sections with downcast eyes, now walked with straight backs and raised heads. The chamber was silent as they approached. Vorix sat on his throne, but he looked smaller somehow, older. The scales that had once shifted with confident colors now seemed dull and gray. Ambassador Marsh, Vorix said. His voice lacked its former power. You requested this session. Speak. Elena looked around the chamber. She saw fear in the eyes of the elder species. She saw hope in the eyes of the young ones. She saw a galaxy balanced on the edge of a new era. High Chancellor, 1 year ago, I stood in this chamber and gave Earth's answer to your tribute demand. One word, no. You promised that word would destroy us. You promised we would come back on our knees. She paused. We are still standing. Vorix's claws gripped the arms of his throne. The Dominion has been patient. We have given humanity time to understand its mistake. We have had time to understand many things, Elena replied. We have learned that the Dominion's power was always an illusion. You ruled because everyone believed you could not be challenged. Once we proved that belief wrong, your empire began to crack. She gestured to the Alliance representatives behind her. 23 species have joined us. 23 peoples who have chosen freedom over submission. And more are waiting, watching to see what happens today. This is rebellion, Councillor Nethric hissed. His crystal body glowed with angry light. This is the destruction of 10,000 years of order. This is change, Elena said calmly. It was always going to come. We simply arrived sooner than you expected. Vorix raised his hand for silence. He stared at Elena for a long moment, his 4 eyes unreadable. Then he asked a question that surprised everyone. How did you know? Know what, High Chancellor? How did you know we would not attack? When you refused tribute, you risked everything. Your colonies, your people, your entire species. How did you know we would not simply destroy you? Elena considered her answer carefully. This was the moment that would be remembered for generations. She needed to speak the truth. We didn't know, she said. We had no guarantee. Our analysts believed the Dominion had grown weak, but we could not be certain. When I said no, I knew it might be the last word humanity ever spoke to the galaxy. Then why? Vorix's voice cracked. He genuinely did not understand. Why risk everything for one word? Elena took a step closer to the High Chancellor's throne. Because some things are worth more than survival. Because we decided we would rather die on our feet than live on our knees. Because we looked at the future you offered us and chose a different path. whatever the cost. She turned to address the entire chamber. Humans are not special. We are not stronger or smarter than other species. But we have learned one thing in our short history. Freedom is not given. It is taken. It is defended. It is paid for with sacrifice. And once you have tasted it, you can never accept chains again. The chamber was completely still. In the lower sections, young species representatives were weeping quietly. They had waited so long to hear these words. Vorik stood slowly from his throne. He looked at the Alliance representatives, at his own council members, at the galaxy he had once controlled. He saw it slipping away, and he knew there was nothing he could do to stop it. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "Not revenge," Elena said. "Not conquest. We want what we have always wanted. Freedom to choose our own path. Partnership instead of tribute. Cooperation instead of control." She extended her hand toward Vorik's. "The galaxy is changing whether you accept it or not. You can fight that change and lose, or you can help build something new. Something better." Vorik stared at her offered hand. Behind him, several elder species council members were whispering urgently. Some were angry. Some were frightened. But a small few, looked thoughtful. "The Rithani delegate requests permission to speak," said a voice from the council benches. A younger Rithani, one of Vorik's own species, stood up. "I believe the ambassador's proposal deserves consideration. The old ways have failed us. Perhaps it is time for new ways." One by one, other council members rose to support the proposal. Not all of them, not even most, but enough. Enough to break the Dominion's united front forever. Vorik looked at his crumbling coalition. Then he looked at Elena's hand, still extended. For a long moment, he did nothing. Then, slowly, he reached out and took it. "Let us talk," he said quietly. "Let us see what new order we can build together." 3 months later, President Daniel Carter addressed the people of Earth. Behind him, flags of the new Galactic Federation flew alongside the banner of United Earth. Representatives from 32 species stood on the stage, witnesses to the moment. "1 year ago," Carter said, "our ambassador spoke one word that changed history. She said no. Such a small word, such a simple idea. But behind that word stood all of humanity. Behind that word stood our belief that freedom is worth any price." He looked at the camera, knowing the billions were watching across human space and beyond. "We did not win this victory through war. We did not defeat the Dominion through force. We won because we were willing to risk everything for what we believed. We won because our example inspired others to do the same. We won because one small word, spoken with courage, can move mountains." He smiled, and for the first time in over a year, it was a smile of genuine peace. "Today, we begin writing a new chapter in galactic history. A chapter based on consent, not tribute. Partnership, not submission. Freedom, not fear." He raised his hand in salute to the watching humans. "This is what one word can do. This is what humanity can do. Never forget it." The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, beings of 100 different species looked up at the stars and felt something they had not felt in generations. They felt Hope Dot and in the Great Chamber, where it had all begun. Ambassador Elena Marsh looked at the new galactic charter being signed by former enemies. She thought about the moment she had said no. Such a small word. Such enormous consequences. She smiled. One word. That was all it had taken to change everything.